By the way, for the record, surname? No, there's
not
only
the right
one.
word.
No. Surname
Pronoun.
is your last name.
I know. What am I thinking of that goes before? Prename. the you know how people are like, why are you laughing at me? A prename. Just gonna keep saying it.
Partly because we're recording, because I'm trying to catch like the little
excellent.
cold open pre-show thing.
Welcome. This is the cold open. It's fucking freezing. It's cold in here.
I am Doug Friedman.
I am Kenzie Janest. I laughed while you were saying your name. I'm so sorry.
This is still your mental breakdown.
It is just as good as it can get, really. This is your mental breakdown.
The podcast brought to you by Kenzie Janest.
An absolute mess, Kenzie Janest.
Hey!
Oh my God.
There it
That's
is.
my surname. Do you like that?
Not a surname.
Well, what is a surname?
A surname is your last name.
Okay, but...
Is your hereditary name that you were given
But
at
then
birth.
what is Mrs. and Mr. and Miss? What is that called? I am blinking. And I was just at the DMV and I had to fill paperwork out.
Ooh, the DMV.
Oh God, it was absolutely awful. I hadn't been since I got my license when I was 16. Yeah, I don't recommend it. If you can avoid the DMV, avoid it at all costs. It's horrible.
Wow.
But if you do have to go, make an appointment. This is your PSA.
Right?
From Kenzie Janest. The mess. Which is my surname. No. Prename.
Wow. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
They're called honorifics.
No. No, they're not. I've never heard that term in my life.
I've never heard that either.
No. I refuse to accept that. There is something else. Well, you know what? To be fair, I'm realizing the last thing I filled out, it said, what can we call you? You know? And it was like Mrs., Miss, Mr. And I was like, none of those.
Just don't call me late for dinner.
Like, oh, you're so old.
In the English language, an honorific is a form of address conveying esteem, courtesy, or respect.
Oh.
There you go.
But
I think we know it as just titles. What's your title?
Yeah, title. That might be it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not honorific.
Honorific. I mean, that sounds like I'm honorific. Like I am worthy of honor.
What an honor it is to be on your podcast.
Oh, on my podcast?
Thank you. This is so honorific.
You're speaking as me. Okay.
I'm speaking as someone who would join us on the podcast.
Oh, we're going to have a third.
Oh, grow up.
I'm sorry.
We might have Meredith on with us and have all three of us. That could be fun.
So we're going to rewind. What were we talking about?
Oh my God, really?
It's bad. It's extra bad this week, Doug. I'm telling you.
You know why I think you're punchy? I think you're punchy because you're going camping tomorrow.
I'm excited.
Yeah?
A nice segue, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I am going camping because it's my 1-year wedding anniversary.
Wow.
Look at me. Talk about real adulting. I've been married for a whole year.
Wow. For my dad's, I think, 15-year anniversary.
Yeah.
He said, and here's to 11 happy years together.
Oh my God. Hey, that's honesty. And we appreciate it.
Right.
Marriage is not for the faint of heart.
No.
Neither are relationships.
Marriage takes
it.
work.
It does take work. And we've got 3 days left to annul this. So.
Well, you know, if camping doesn't go well, how long has it been since you've been camping? You grew up camping, right?
I grew up camping. It is one of my inner child happy places to be in nature and escape and not have cell service. It's wonderful.
Oh, God, I love that.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate escape.
It really is.
Because it's also so primal.
And Kenzie is giving herself a hug right now. It's really
I am
sweet.
giving myself a hug. I'm excited. I love being in nature. So yeah, that's why I'm a little punchy. Okay, I'll reel it back in. I also had my matcha tea this morning, my matcha latte, which I haven't had in almost 2 months, Doug, because I had bronchitis.
Because you were sick?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So we're back.
You sound decent.
Thank you.
You sound very passable right now.
Sound decent. Passable for what? A human? For healthy? Oh man. All right.
Speaking of
healthy humans,
let's talk about
narcissism.
Yes, healthy humans and healthy narcissism. Is there healthy narcissism?
Now that's a question.
That is a question.
Well, okay. How do we define health?
It's funny. You go to that and I go to narcissism.
How do you define narcissism?
There's a psychological definition for narcissism. There's just a...
I told you this. Well, How dare you?
Right. No, well, I'm going with there's just the common vernacular of like, that guy's such a narcissist. Yeah. Which just means he's selfish or they're selfish. They just think about them.
Yeah, they've got a big ego.
Right. But then there is a psychological definition from psychology, right?
Yes.
Which you just looked up.
I did. Well, just to see the differences. And there's a psychoanalysis definition, which I'm going to read to you because I don't practice psychoanalysis and I found this fascinating. Self-centeredness arising from failure to distinguish the self from external objects, either in very young babies or as a feature of a mental disorder. So like that splitting. I am not an expert in that, so I will not be speaking on that.
That sounds like, and again, I'm not a psychoanalyst either.
Yeah.
But it sounds like instead of recognizing how something affects someone or something else, everything just affects you.
It's you. Yeah. Right? Everything comes back to you and you can't empathize with other people that you might be affecting.
Because that I think is the more standard definition that we're used to is somebody who's just selfish, has a lack of empathy, can't relate to somebody unless it's through them, through their own lens. But I think psychologically or psychoanalytically, it's about you don't have the ability to process something separate from processing it about yourself.
I think in these terms, in a psychoanalysis way, it sounds like you almost don't leave that egocentrism that you have when you're at that stage of life as a baby, like until you're like 4 or 5, you're egocentric. Like everything revolves around you, of course. Right. So it almost sounds like you just don't grow out of that. And that probably could be argued that there's trauma. And I think a lot with NPD, actual full-blown narcissistic personality disorder, there is a lot of trauma or like mixed messaging growing up about like, you're so special. And then also I'm getting hit you, Right. There's that confusion.
Yeah. It might be a protective mechanism for sure.
Yes. As we could argue that almost all things are.
Well, and interesting that we started talking about this because we know something that you guys don't. We have an actual listener question about this.
See, I thought we were already answering it.
We kind of were, but we weren't. We were answering what is a narcissist and what is narcissism.
Is true. Okay, but this is a more specific question.
Right. We do have a specific question. Yeah. And it's funny because coming off of the heels of the last session or the last episode where we were talking a lot about narcissism.
Yeah, with Drew.
Yep. Yeah. That this person who ironically wanted to remain anonymous.
Very ironic. Yeah.
Said, how do I know if I'm the narcissist?
Oh, the right inflection. Yeah. What if I'm the narcissist?
Right.
It's so funny because even in that question, in asking that question, what if I'm the narcissist? It might be fair to say because you're asking that question, you're probably not the narcissist. There's a level of self-awareness there and self-consciousness that I think a true narcissist might not have.
Right.
But it also exists on a spectrum, right? I mean, NPD, BPD, all of these cluster B, whatever, personality disorders.
Right.
And
which
maybe
is what
arguably,
the PD stands for.
Yeah, thank you. Arguably, all mental disorders exist on a spectrum. The DSM's the DSM, but I think some people have traits. Some people are full-blown. They fit all the criteria. Some people only have a couple of the criteria, right? So, thoughts, Doug? Let's get the expert opinion.
Well, I'm going to pause this. No, not pause. I'm going to pause your inquiry of me because this question, in all transparency, was asked by a client of mine in a session.
Oh.
They do listen to the podcast, so it was a listener and
they're both a
client.
listener and a client.
And definitely wanted to remain anonymous.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, that makes more sense.
So I'll tell you what we talked about or what I said, but I want to hear what you think of this because you're getting this fresh.
What I said basically is what I think of this. Like if you're asking this question, you're probably not a narcissist, but also nowadays, I think there is so much talk of narcissism and calling people narcissists, and it's kind of a go-to insult or kind of a catch-all for somebody who maybe doesn't like you. You know what I mean? Like we can go that far sometimes to just call someone a narcissist or they're gaslighting me or they're abusive. Like,
when really
or
they didn't share their chocolate with me. God, what a narcissist. Like,
yeah, exactly.
No, that's maybe selfish or maybe they just didn't feel like sharing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It could be just personality, but not a narcissistic personality disorder.
That's exactly my point is that you can go through the DSM, our diagnostic and
statistical manual.
That's right. We're on number 5 of it.
We are.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can go through that and flip to any page and read something about somebody and go, oh my God, that's my cousin, or that's my friend, or that's me. And the difference is it a functional impairment to your daily life?
And that's always the main, what is the word I'm looking for? Criteria for an actual diagnosis is it impairing functioning?
Right.
Like daily living.
Right. Yeah. You might have these qualities. That's why I'll say like people can be a little borderline-y.
Right.
Doesn't mean they have borderline personality disorder.
Yeah. Some people probably hate that.
Some people do, but it also explains something. And if you think about borderline comes from a fear of abandonment.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Who isn't afraid of being abandoned?
Totally.
Right?
I have borderline traits that come out sometimes. I've got an anxious attachment style. Doug knows. I have an anxious attachment style. So some could probably argue that in a high conflict or like when I feel insecure or scared of being abandoned, maybe I don't know.
That gets activated. That anxious attachment style is activated. So we'll either reach out or we'll reject. And that's all. Here we go again. Protective mechanism, right?
Absolutely. And I'd say more so in my past than current, but like I can see that now. I can identify.
Wow, we are really talking about you a lot.
I am so sorry. Fuck, am I a narcissist? Am I the narcissist?
You might be the narcissist.
Oh no.
It's me. Hi.
I think nowadays we're very sensitive to people and emotions and the way people carry themselves. We're highly critical of people.
Right.
And as soon as someone shows a glimmer of pride, of maybe a strong ego, we can be a little off-put by that. Like, oh, what? Aren't we all supposed to be anxious and messy? Maybe this is the millennial in me talking, but like, aren't we all supposed to be depressed? Like, come on. Why do you like yourself? That's weird.
I think it's often a projection of why do you like yourself? That's weird because I don't like myself.
Exactly. Yeah. And it makes me insecure to see someone who likes themselves.
Although, you know what I do like?
Oh, what do you like, Doug? Look at me. I'm trying to focus us.
Well, look at you, Miss Honorific.
Oh, that seems like a year ago. That's how long ago we were talking about that.
Well, then let's get out of the way. But if you would like to get in our way, it's never a bother to hear from you.
No, it's not. We, in fact, really want to hear from you.
That's right. You can email us at info@yourmentalbreakdown.com. You can find us on the social medias and DM us. You can
slide into our DMs.
Oh, sorry. You're going to stop saying that.
I'm so sorry.
We'll slide into this episode and we will be back at you when it's over. Bye for now.
Bye.
Apparently, not apparently, I am doing so much better that I actually notice things all the time. For instance, right now, I have some massive catastrophes going on in my personal life. I got a letter from the IRS saying I screwed up on my 2019 taxes. 2019, okay? Normally, that would have been it, right? I would have gone into full panic mode. And on top of it, I have a court date coming up for my child support. And we are about to have to move out of this house that we live in. So many hurdles, but again, it was interesting to me that I jumped them instead of standing there and freaking out about them, which is sort of my default mode.
It's really interesting because as we're talking about this, we're talking about not having control and being powerless. And yet you kind of rolled with it.
I know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say I've done well. I am actually quite pleased with the progress I have made. It stresses me out, and I'm dealing with it, I think, pretty well.
You corrected yourself. You were about to say something, then you didn't. Explain to me why you didn't.
Yeah, I was going to say it was probably a fluke, or it's probably just, but we've already talked about that, and it's not that. It's whenever I have a moment or like a week like this where it's just big, huge stresses coming at me and I realize I'm not reacting in my normal paper fold way.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I like this. I like this for me. This is awesome. And of course, my knee-jerk reaction is, of course, to be like, oh, well, maybe I'm just extra dopamine in my system. I always want to kind of brush it off and not accept that maybe I am starting to make the changes.
That's a gold star moment. And it's not the moment of you calling and not letting something get to you as much. It's the moment of you going, wait, you know what? I'm giving myself credit for this. I have worked hard. I have been doing this. It's not a fluke. I'm not going to dismiss it. You just did it without any prompt from me. That's huge progress. That's amazing. And we're talking about you taking credit for something that you've done and acknowledging that for yourself. It's interesting that this is what it starts to look like. Not, wow, I'm really processing all this trauma and my history and where it's come from, and I'm unearthing this stuff, and I'm getting in touch with my anger, and I'm punching the punching bag. And man, it's not always that. Sometimes it is. It's really about, I'm actually interacting with the world around me slightly differently.
Absolutely, I am. And it's funny, I have this sort of situation that's emerging now. I do feel like I have put on a pair of glasses that is sort of changing the colors of my world. Things are changing, and in ways that obviously I always wanted to happen, but I didn't even know could happen for me. Whenever I'm hanging out with my brothers or sisters, or we're having a conversation, so, okay, little context here. When I came to you, I had an agenda, right? I had already figured out what my problems were, how I dealt with them, and I don't even know if I was coming to you so much for help as maybe validation, or, I've been searching my soul on this last week, thinking back about how I approached my therapy with you at the beginning. It became pretty clear to me that I knew nothing. There's a sense of, I don't know how to say this. It's kind of like where I owned my quirks. I was like, yeah, that's just sort of how I am. And the reason I'm like that is because I've dealt with this shit, and what the fuck is your problem? You got nothing to worry about. So when I talk with my family, a lot of them are in that same exact place. I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, yeah, no, you for sure think you've got this all sorted out, but I know you don't. And of course, I don't want to say anything.
It reminds me, in school we learned about the stages of change, and there's, clinical terms I can give you, and you might have even heard some of these, right? And essentially, it's pre-contemplation. When somebody isn't even contemplating making a change, there's just no problem according to them. Like, I don't see anything.
Yep.
They're completely unaware. Then there's contemplation, where you're like, maybe this is a problem. Maybe I could do something. Then the preparation. I'd like to make a plan to change. I'd like to do something. And we kind of slip back and forth between them. And there's a method by which we help somebody go from pre-contemplation to contemplation, from being completely unaware to realizing, and maybe I can do something about it. And you might remember this from such sessions as our first one, when I said to you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or if this is our last session, because things are great, what do they look like? What I was doing was kind of creating, where do you want to go? And then when we have that picture, we look at where you are. Then we can look at, based on where you are, would that get you to where you want to go? Would it carry you there? And if it won't, then there's something incongruent about how you are and where you want to be. So maybe we can do something different.
I was like, I need to change whatever's going on. Right. But I don't think that I was entirely aware why I wanted that change, or what it was specifically about me at this point in my life that made me say, okay, hold on. It's too much. I knew I was super stressed. Obviously, there was the panic attacks and the bleeding ulcers. Other than that, on a deeper level.
Wait. Hold on for a second. There was the panic attacks and the bleeding ulcer. Hello? Right. Dismissing that. Not a big deal.
Those were the physical reasons.
Right. And those things are huge. They are.
Yeah, they are.
And for you, that was your inroad. It was like, wow, you're compartmentalizing a lot. And you had a willingness to look at those compartments. You were legitimately a little nervous and fearful of, well, I don't know what happens if we look at that.
Yes, I was. And I was nervous and fearful. And I think your mother said it really well when she said she's finally trusting you to sort of shine that mirror back on me and allow me to work through things. So when I hear my brothers and sisters talking about their things they do and how they combat this and the psychology behind this, I'm like, yep, I have all those same exact answers, but none of them are actual answers. They really aren't, because I did the exact same thing as they did, and it's just really interesting because over the last week, we've hung out, all brothers and sisters, a lot.
Oh, nice.
Because our one sister from England is here.
She is, yeah, nice.
It's just so interesting because now I'm thinking, I really don't want to be judgy of them at all. Because obviously I love them. But, there's always that side of me, which we've discussed over almost a year now, which wants to instantly fix it. It's almost like I'm seeing me a year ago with totally new eyes. But then there's this healthy part of me now that's going, oof, I wish I could help them, but I know I can't. Well, that's not true. Yeah. I can help them by example.
What does that mean?
I find myself just saying, I think the most powerful thing I can say right now is nothing. I'm not going to join in. I'm not going to try and get above everybody. It's interesting to me that is what went on in my mind. So that's why I wanted to talk to you about it. The other alternative is me going, okay, everybody shut up because y'all know nothing.
Well, there's another alternative that hasn't really occurred to you yet. And it's closer to the first thing that you said, and that's why I want to lean into that for a second. What are you observing in those moments? Me,
my reaction to the stimuli of the situation. Normally, I would either be in there with, let me fix everybody's problems right now and let me answer everybody's questions and make everybody relax and calm down, or I would be in there with, I know better than you do.
Why do you think you are not doing that? When you say it's interesting, because I'm noticing this and I'm not doing that.
I honestly believe me saying something is not going to matter to them.
Right.
Me sitting there, relaxed, chilled, smiling,
right,
I think is going to matter more or be more impactful.
And if you did join in, what would happen in the old days?
I'm not sure, in fact. Oh, in the old days.
Yeah.
It's really who can talk the loudest in our family and enunciate the clearest. No, I'm kidding. But the loudest thing is true.
I hear you saying, with my brothers and sisters, I see where they are, and it hurts me. Like it bothers me and it frustrates me, but it hurts that they're still doing the same thing they've been doing, and it's stressful, and I don't join in anymore, and I don't try to fight them on it anymore. I kind of allow it to just be without me participating, and I feel less stressed.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That pretty much sums it up.
Huh.
I do participate, but I don't participate to the point of becoming involved emotionally. And I told all my brothers and sisters, you all need to. They're my brothers
listen
and sisters,
to the podcast.
So I'm allowed to say that. But really, it's healthy. You should go to therapy.
Sure.
And then everybody was like, yeah, whatever. I don't need therapy. I'm fine.
It might be an indicator of somebody who thinks of therapy as, when there's a deficit, you go to therapy, you fix the deficit.
That's exactly what he said.
When there's events,
therapy is for when you need something fixed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
So I think for you said you want to lead by example. I think there is an example you can set, because I think there's a way to do it that is confrontational, and you don't want that. There's a way to do it that's holier than thou or above
I'm
you.
so much better than you.
Yeah, you don't want that either. And it is something where you can do it as an observation, and you can do it as an observation about yourself.
Okay.
And this will sound very familiar to you because you and I just said it. So tell me how this sounds, and let's hear. I want to hear you play with this, because I'm just riffing. I'm not writing the script for you at all.
All right.
But I see, you and brothers and sisters all chatting, them elevating and bringing it up and you chiming in a little bit, but kind of sitting back and not getting emotionally invested in it and just kind of going, oh, this is really interesting. And they're, maybe they'll look at you and you can even say it again. It's really, really interesting. If you say that, almost anybody will naturally ask the follow-up, right?
Mm-hmm.
What?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. And this is where you can observe. There's an observation of them and what's going on and an observation of yourself. And if you frame it as yourself, it takes some of the finger pointing and holier than thou and better than you out of it. So you can kind of say, again, what you said to me. This is me saying it back to you. It's interesting. I'm not super stressed out right now. Normally, when we're talking like this, I would get really worked up and I'd get emotionally involved in what we're all talking about. And I'd get super stressed out. I don't feel that right now. It's pretty cool. Oh, good for you. Yeah, it is good for me. It's great, actually. Like, I might actually sleep well tonight. Ish. Right. And it's...
I am sleeping better, side note.
Nice. I mean, all of this makes sense because it's going, I'm not holding the stress of this. I'm not getting so emotionally worked up about this stuff. I agree with you guys, and I'll chime in a little bit. I'm just not taking it on as much. And man, you know what? The work I've been doing in therapy is really paying off.
So interestingly enough, I have been chiming in, but I've added something which I've never said before, which was for me personally, or what I've been learning lately is, rather than just statement, nobody can tell me otherwise, this is how it is, that's how it works, shut up. Right. Which is a very common line in my family. Nobody can tell me otherwise. Well, actually, yes, they can. But if I ever sort of confront my siblings in a, even questioning, but sort of, wait, did that really happen? Or how do you know that? If I push it too far, there's a lot of defenses. Yeah. A lot. Oh, yeah. A lot.
Oh, yeah.
So I've always been very careful just because that's in my nature to read the room. So I'm very careful to kind of pull back when I feel that they're starting to feel like I'm attacking them.
Right. Yep.
But interestingly enough, when I am given even, 2 seconds really is what I get in my family to talk, what any of us get, I guess, I've started saying for me personally, or what I've been learning is, and then people will actually listen. I think when you're actually giving a personal experience and there's something there. I don't get a lot of floor time, but that was new to me to bring it back to myself.
Yeah, I love that.
Exactly.
I've noticed something different about me. For me personally, what I've been learning is this.
For me personally, yep.
But starting with like that, almost like, wow, I don't know if you've ever seen yourself in those old fun house mirrors. You know what I'm talking about? The mirror.
No.
There's mirrors.
Oh, they make you like really tall and really blobby. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I took the kids to one. That was fun.
Right. Awesome. And that's those fun house mirrors. Like you look in them and you go, and whoa, look at you. Oh, look at that. Look, we look so weird. We look, look at, your big blood, and we get really into it. Part of why I bring that up now is it's almost like everybody, all your brothers and sisters, I'm picturing it like around a table or something like that, right? And it's almost like they're seeing each other through funhouse mirrors. They're seeing each other and going like, well, I've been so large and so blob-like because this, that. Well, I'm so tall and skinny because of this, whatever their thing is. And you can just kind of go there and go, whoa. If you step to the right, what I've noticed is I'm looking at a regular mirror. This is how I actually look.
I love that, Doug. I love that because that makes a perfect picture of what I've been feeling. And I love when you said it right at the end. If you just step over to the right here with me, like what I'm seeing is how I look. Yeah. In a regular mirror.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because I know that all my siblings they understand they have trauma. I understand I have weird quirks, but this is how I've decided to control or live my life. And so I'm fine. I don't need anything different in a sense. Now that I'm looking at it in a healthy mirror or in a regular mirror, I see that distortion I had pre-therapy. It's hard to say you really should go to therapy because it will help you, because there's not every therapist is good. I'm sorry to whoever's listening.
It's true.
But it's true.
Yeah.
And especially for difficult people, like, okay, I'm fairly difficult as a human. I'm the least difficult of 9 more exactly like me. You think I enunciate? You think I like get crazy? You have no idea. I am the calm, quiet one in my family, even pre-therapy. And I don't think that any of my siblings have really had a really meaningful, positive experience. So it's also hard for them to relate. Like, no, obviously nobody can help me. What are you talking about?
Right.
I don't need help.
Again, I hear your compassion for them and your empathy. I also hear you not taking it on, just being aware of it. And this is where, I love the phrase, like, or the term observational.
Yes.
It's sort of like you can observe them looking at themselves in funhouse mirrors, and you can lead by example of going, well, when I step to the right, I see myself clearly in this mirror here. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to see with this clarity and what that's like. And therapy has really helped me with that. It's amazing. Period. That's it.
I like the observation that's never been me. Even today we had a 2-hour meeting, and I was supposed to be one of the trainers.
Right.
I didn't say a word for all 2 hours. So unlike me. I even had my boss message me. I'm like, are you okay? Is everything okay? Because she was doing fine. How weird is that, Doug? How weird is that?
And what you just told me was, I was sitting around a room and people were going, are you okay? What's going on? Because you're not doing that thing. You're not correcting the world around you.
And I felt so relaxed today. I slept so good last night. Woke up this morning, felt great. And then just on a calendar, my day was extremely stressful. I had such a chill, relaxed day. It's kind of nuts.
Wow. I love that. And
it's
you have
amazing.
The punching bag right over there if you need it,
Yep, it's right there.
Right. Yep.
And I love that you put a word to it, which is observation, because that is just historically not me. I'm not really an observer. I always have to jump in and try and control the situation. But it's really interesting to see how, like you've been telling me all these months, it's still gonna happen. It's still, everything's gonna happen, whether you stress out about it or have a panic attack over it.
We've talked about this before. I don't think it's time for this yet. But the Viking funeral for Keep Calm, Sarah Can Handle It t-shirt, right?
Yep.
I think you might be getting close, if not ready, to start writing a eulogy for the shirt.
I think so too, actually.
You saying something to say goodbye to the t-shirt, and then maybe what the t-shirt represents, we'll see what opens up for you. And if you have, a moment between now and next week to kind of think about that a little bit, write down a few things, or just think about it or not. It's from this place that you're in now, to do it with honor and to honor what that was, and what that stood for, what that meant, and where you are now.
I'm going to do that. And I actually really love writing. So it's easier for me to even express feelings that I'm still a little uncomfortable with. So that would be good.
I like how you're observing yourself these days. Very cool.
Me too.
Yeah.
I feel so mature.
Nah. We're still just kids.
I am now working on being an observer. I like this for me.
Dude, so much less
I'm
stress.
gonna stick with this theme. I like it. It really is amazing.
And we are back.
We're back. And I like this for Sarah too.
Aww.
I'm a little biased because in acceptance and commitment therapy, there's a whole thing about activating the observing mind.
Oh, nice.
So I really love that whole observer bit.
Nice.
I mean, we can get back to it. That's towards the end. Speaking of Sarah and her progress, I have a question for you because this comes up with clients a lot when I feel the need to, like what you're doing with Sarah at the top of this session, talking about progress, making sure they're taking the credit for it. But sometimes they don't want to, right? Like they think it's a fluke.
Right.
I mean, I know it depends on the relationship, depends on the client, but how do you kind of find that balance of like, okay, thank you. Yeah, I was with you on this process, right? Like I'm sure maybe I was a little part of it, but most of this is happening outside of the 1 hour a week that we have together. And you did that. You put in that work. Throwing it back at them without completely deflecting the therapy process. Do you know what I mean? Like kind of finding that balance of, and you don't want to also try and convince them like you've made a lot of progress because you don't, you want to.
Well, right. And what you guys didn't see just now is when Kenzie said, you made a lot of progress, you're shaking your fists in joy. Like you made, yay.
No, I was like shaking them.
Oh, shaking them, like shaking their shoulders.
Yeah, like, come on, see it. You've made progress. Dang it. But is that more about me,
Yes, that is more about you.
Yeah.
The narcissist, as we've talked about at the top of the show.
Yeah, I need to know that my clients are doing better.
Right.
Because of me.
But the reality is the way that I practice is bringing these things from your unconscious mind to your consciousness and doing things subtly, like being the therapy ninja and you don't realize what's going on. Okay, cool. So when I get them to see something like this, I'm just going, well, yeah, no, you did it.
Yeah. So it's just casual little subtle reminders like, oh, yeah.
And there was one session with Sarah in particular a little while back where she did something at work differently, similar to what she was talking about here. And she was like, but that's just a fluke. We talked about that.
Yeah,
but
she said that a couple times.
We spent time on this in one session where I went, hang on. That's not a fluke.
Yes.
Because she was like, well, it's not real. It's a fluke. It doesn't count. Like, yes, it does.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
And it's something I do frequently with Sarah, but with a lot of my clients.
Yeah.
We will grab that and they know, here's, I guess, the framework bias for how I am with clients is they know that some of what we're working on is rewiring their brain and how they're thinking to shift how they're feeling and how they act, right?
Yeah.
It's just a classic CBT thing where we go, oh yeah, we're going to fine tune something. So if I catch something, I'm going to call you on it so we can just kind of retrain and work that muscle.
Yeah, and you're bringing awareness to it too, because that's part of the retraining is actually having the awareness and noticing when those changes are happening. I think we've talked about this. We don't, as humans, we're not very good at recognizing our progress because we are in it. We are doing it. And it's a slower journey for us, but someone else on the outside can be reflective and say, hey, this is actually changing. This is happening.
That's the awareness. That's what we're talking about. Doesn't mean you're never going to do it. It means sometimes you're going to be aware when you say something that you're working on something, you're thinking about it differently, right?
Right.
So for Sarah, even when I say like, that's not a small thing, that's huge. I'm not going to go, whoa, that's huge. Wait, let's write it down. Let's do this.
Cheerleading.
Sometimes I absolutely will, as you well know. I have them right here.
Gold stars.
Right?
Wow, fresh pack.
Right? Sometimes I really do want to call attention to something and I'll talk to clients about pop the cork moments, right? Like we want to be able to celebrate things.
Yeah.
When a client is so used to just going, yeah, I did this or I did that and that was cool, whatever. Like, whoa, time out, hang on. Then I will cheerlead.
Yeah.
Then I will do that because I'm modeling for them. Let's actually celebrate some of these things. Right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's important.
Sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't, but it's important for us as the therapist to just mark it.
Yes. Just to tag it a little bit. One of the things I like that you do that I think I've adopted in my therapy, and it's such a small little thing, you'll kind of rewind or go back and be like, hey, I just want to like click that and like zoom in really quick. I love that. It makes so much sense to me visually. And I've heard myself doing it with clients and I'm like, yeah. Like, I like it. Because it's really, if we're going back to acceptance and commitment theory, it's like bringing the awareness, zooming in, like opening up to it a little bit and like bringing that space for it. Just really quick. We don't have to like stew in it all session, but wow, that happened. Cool.
Totally. Yeah. And now carry on. Right. And now we've marked it and it's going to make an imprint in them. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the rewiring of the brain and repetition and yada, yada, yada. This session's cool because, yes, we get to something that's, another fun metaphor. But I think for the most part, especially the beginning of the session, it's like, wow, sometimes we are processing trauma explicitly. And sometimes it's the small things.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about little things here and there and kind of reflecting. And that's therapy. That's the equanimity of therapy, I think, right? Like, it's not just processing trauma, getting really deep. Like, it's the highs and lows. It's just like life.
And also, it's not necessarily that we're going slow to do this. It's that we're just not rushing it or going fast. And sometimes it takes time.
I mean, that is the whole point of integrative person-centered therapy. I mean, you just don't know how a person's going to respond, and you have to be flexible and not forcing it.
Right.
I love this too because Sarah, mentions, I came in with such an agenda. I thought I knew exactly what I needed. And I have had clients say the same exact thing where they're like, this is what I need. I don't want validation. I want to be challenged, or like whatever it is, right?
Right.
And then, wow, 1 year in, 6 months in, it's completely different. And
Totally.
they admit, I didn't know what I needed. Like,
Totally.
we don't know. So I like that. And for Sarah in particular, I think that's part of the progress, is her kind of loosening up on the agenda, right? And the control element. Which
is also, I think, very cool to have her see her siblings differently. And then, like she said, it's noticing that she's interacting with the world around her slightly differently.
Right.
Great. She's noticing these small things and bringing it up. Mm-hmm. And I talked about the stages of change with her.
I was just about to,
bring
get
it on.
into that. Well, I like the concept of, speaking of kind of person-centered, more of a, not loosey-goosey in like a we have no plan kind of way, but just being flexible and kind of slipping back and forth between stages of change, right? Like talking about her siblings and stuff. Like, I empathize with her. It's really hard when you have, quote unquote, done the work, or you're doing the work, and then you see people who are not, quote unquote, doing the work. Right. And it becomes very apparent because your awareness is up too. And it is really hard, and you want to control. And for Sarah in particular, she wants to control the situation. And I think she's loosened a bit on that.
She very much has. I loved when she said, I don't want to be judgy of them.
Yes, that's in my notes. Yeah. Right? Not wanting to be judgy of people who haven't done the work.
Right. And I love that, because it really, to me, and knowing her as I do, and as all of you do at this point too, is something that she was so judgmental of herself.
Right.
Right. So now she's seeing how she is to others that haven't done the work. Mm-hmm. And there's a spin on it where that's a way to have compassion for yourself, is to go, that's where you were. So it's not just celebrating, look at all the change you've gone through, and look at all this. It's, can we have some compassion for you? Because that's where you were before you actually started doing this.
And then compassion for others too, because maybe they're not ready for the type of change, that journey you've embarked on. Like they are not ready. Maybe they never will be ready. And that's another conversation. And that's really hard, when you've got people close to you who are not working on it with you. It's difficult.
And it's especially tough because when people aren't working on it, and you can have some boundaries, there are some people where you can go, oh, well, they don't need to change, but I've changed. So I'm going to move on from these people in my life. When it's your family.
I was going to say, when you're tied to them in a way, and she's got a lot of siblings.
Oh yeah.
The part of the control for her is just wanting to fix them. And I think she's seen such a beautiful growth and change that she wants that so badly for them.
Right.
But it's just simply not in her control. And I like that she herself came up with that kind of reframe of show, don't tell, right? Like, I can lead by example.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they'll notice. That's where we were saying, you don't have to join in with them in some of that. You don't have to slip into that. And it's tough because she's going to have to navigate, well, where do I fit in if I'm not doing this with them, if I'm not getting in this, and the holier than thou approach to it, right?
Well, speaking of narcissism, I think this is a very clear indicator that you are not a narcissist if you are really checking yourself and not wanting to be the holier than thou. I have worked on my mental health and I am a god or goddess kind of thing.
This is where I talk to her about being able to observe.
Yes.
Right.
And observing the fun house mirrors. This is a fun, well, it's fun. And I have a weird note on it that I'm hoping you can help me unpack because I don't really remember what I mean by it.
Okay.
So I said, fun house mirrors. God, it's like a journal. This got me into a really intellectual place. But the idea of individualism versus collectivism, right? Like doing something for ourselves versus, God, what am I talking about here? This is kind of some weird, vulnerable insight, y'all.
Ooh, now we're getting inside Kenzie's head.
Yeah, like doing something for ourselves, our personal truth versus a collective truth. It's almost like this postmodernism belief that we all create our own reality and there's no objective truth.
Well, hang on. Let me push it something. I don't know if this is
spiraling.
it. No, but there's something about this
hit me.
Almost what you're hitting. I don't want to go off on body dysmorphia. That's not what I'm talking about here. But there's something about how we see ourselves is going to be more critical than how anybody else sees us. Often, not always, right?
Yeah.
So if we're talking about a funhouse mirror, somebody could look in a funhouse mirror and see, oh, look, you're all, what did I say, blobby, or you're all like tall and thin, or like
wavy and funky
wavy
looking,
and this.
yeah.
And that might be collectively, we see, oh yeah, we're all like looking like we're in a funhouse mirror and all that.
Okay.
However, almost what you're hitting is sometimes if you look at yourself in a regular mirror, to you, you'll see it through a funhouse lens. And it's not fun at all. It's horrifying. Right? You see yourself a certain way and you can't stand certain things about yourself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're our toughest critics for sure. And
That's what
I think
I'm saying.
everyone can relate to that, except maybe a full-blown narcissist. I think what I was getting at was the idea of like, oh, they haven't done the work and I want to help them. I want to tell them about therapy and blah, blah, blah. And I think there is this very caring collectivist feeling of I want to be the person that other people need me to be still. Like I do want to be a part of, I mean, in Sarah's case, like my family and be supportive and, connecting to them. But I also have my personal truth and what I need to do for myself. I don't know. This is maybe just a constant overarching thought that I have a lot, which is like that balance between doing for others and doing for self. And where is that line, Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like you're tapping into covert narcissism disguised as altruism.
I guess if you are putting on the cape a little too much and you're trying to
that's what Sarah was doing in a sense, is she's trying to do everything for everybody else and like make sure everybody's okay. And it's very altruistic, yet it was serving herself.
Yeah.
Right?
The control.
Right. It wasn't narcissism for her. She's not a narcissist.
No, it was her anxiety.
It was anxiety. Yeah. It was fear. It was control.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so this is where we get into the observing, right? I think with her siblings, it is the show don't tell and also just recognizing that there are ripple effects of progress, right? Like going back to the progress conversation. Like we are, if we're getting collectivistically minded here, right? Like people do respond to change in others, right? That's the ripple effect.
Oh, yeah.
So if we're changing, we're growing, that's undoubtedly going to have an effect on the people around us and our environment.
Hopefully. Or sometimes it doesn't support that change. And then we know, the environment needs to change.
Yeah. Or some people respond horribly to you setting boundaries and changing because they're like, whoa. And their hackles go up and they're like, holy crap, what's going on?
And I think what Sarah was realizing at work, there were some situations where at performance reviews, she didn't realize like, oh, wait, are people saying this about me? Am I that way? But I'm just trying to get it done right. And I'm just trying to do it well. And I'm just, oh, am I the judgy one? Am I this? And it wasn't so much looking at it as narcissistic or looking at it in any way like that. It was more like, can you just observe what someone else is seeing and see it through their lens?
Taking.
Right. And that's becoming the observer. And that's where I love that she even said, at a 2-hour work meeting, she didn't even speak up in it.
I know.
Right.
And for her, because context is important, for Sarah, that's progress. Whereas for someone with like social anxiety, it might be progress to do the opposite, right? But for Sarah, ooh, that's nice. Like you gave yourself kind of a break.
And she even says like she's feeling more relaxed, and something that I love too. She said, I'm even sleeping better.
Yeah. And I love that because you've said this before with like substance use or like nail biting, right? Like we don't have to specifically address the problem sometimes, right? Like we're not actually talking about sleep and sleep hygiene and how she can fix her sleep habits, but it just happened because those are the ripple effects of progress.
Right. And that's something that she and I talked about after we talked about it on the podcast, the OCPD, right?
Oh, yeah.
Obsessive compulsive personality disorder, right?
Yes.
Which she does not have, but there is some flavor of that for her. And it was seeing all these things that are quote unquote wrong for her and needing to correct them, right? So needing to take an action, and that need, even if she didn't take the action, that need would be super stressful for her and make her totally anxious. And what she's kind of coming to now, which you're kind of pointing out, like, yeah, the ancillary benefit of doing the work the way we're doing is, oh, you're not as stressed. Oh, you're sleeping better.
Like,
oh, look at that.
Go figure.
Right. Huh.
Look at that. The change. It does have effects. But I like that, yeah, she's able to see that now too and recognize, I'm sleeping better. I'm seeing different perspectives. I don't have as much pressure on me to fix my siblings.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Right.
People can just have their feelings. They can be who they are.
Right.
And it's not my job to fix it.
Yeah, it goes back to what she would say, that t-shirt that they got for her that says, keep calm, Sarah will handle it.
Yes.
To, and she said in various sessions with her, like, keep calm, handle it yourself. Or like, Sarah's keeping calm because she doesn't have to handle it.
Right.
Like, she's actually coming to all of these realizations as she's experiencing it.
Wait, did you say her siblings got her that shirt?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they got her a shirt that says, keep calm, Sarah
I knew she had that
it.
shirt, but I didn't know that her siblings got it for her.
Yeah.
That takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Right?
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
That's why I wanted her to have the Viking funeral for that shirt.
And I can't wait till we get to that.
Right?
Because that's some good soup.
That's some good soup.
Sorry, my partner and I say that all the time. I don't even know what it's from.
Wow. That's one of my favorite pranks, is to take a chunky soup on an airplane,
like the
put
brand,
it in the barf
chunky.
bag.
Ew, Doug. Oh my God.
No?
So remember when I said, oh, you're so old. Now I'm like, ugh, you're so immature.
I know you are, but what am I?
That's gross. Immature. I'm
rubber and you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks onto you.
Welcome to our bullying podcast. We're just gonna shit on each other all the time. Well, that's all I had for today, Doug.
And if you're not sick of us yet,
hopefully you're not.
Listen to more. You can rate us and review us. It helps us out. We appreciate you doing that.
Yes, please.
Drop us a line.
Ask us a question. I had too much caffeine this morning. Ask us a question.
And tell us no lies.
Tell us no lies. Is this another Taylor Swift song?
No, that's actually a Bonnie Raitt song.
Bonnie Raitt was a New York crossword puzzle clue the other day. I had to Google it.
Oh,
I didn't know. I know. Sorry,
right.
Bonnie.
Well, come back and we'll give you something to talk about.
Let's give it something to talk about. Is that it?
Wow, look at you go.
See, I know things. I just don't know the names.
Oh, well done.
All right, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.